This is yet another night of strikes, which we, of course, were not expecting. This surprise attack that took place 24 hours ago from Iran has really kind of put a bee in the bonnet of the Americans. Donald Trump, earlier in the day, speaking to Fox News, said he was going to beat the effing S out of Iran. And it appears that now those strikes have started. We learned from CENTCOM that they started what they called a heavy round of strikes. And in a statement later on, CENTCOM giving a bit more detail. They say CENTCOM assets struck dozens of IRGC targets, including military command centers, missile and drone facilities, coastal surveillance and defense sites, and maritime capabilities. So this then very much more of the same of what we've seen from the Americans over the course of the last few weeks. Donald Trump believing that he can kind of bomb the Iranians into submission. But of course, so far, that is something which the Iranians have not seemed to have done. The sneak attack certainly ruffled some feathers, with many US officials believing that this was a way for them to kind of undermine ceasefire talks that were ongoing. But of course, the ceasefire talks were between Oman and Iran, and both sides seemingly at an impasse on that, as they couldn't agree to what part of the waterway should be controlled by which country. The Omanis wanting an equal share, but the Iranians pushing for all inbound traffic being strictly in Iranian territorial waters, and then a more shared approach on the outbound traffic. But that was a non-starter not only for the Omanis, but many of its regional allies and for the United States as well.
Fraser, there have been reports in recent days about the diminution of US military stockpiles. Now, Donald Trump has dismissed these reports, but how serious a problem is it in reality?
Well, it's certainly a problem which the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Dan Kane, believes is worthy of note. He is reportedly brought that up to Donald Trump numerous times in the Situation Room meetings that they've been having, and it was believed to have played a part in Donald Trump's equations to put a pause to the fighting that we saw over the weekend. Of course, that couple of day pause then obviously went back against the Iranians, broke that effectively 24 hours ago, and now we are back to more of these strikes. But it is a significant amount of munitions that have been deployed. The Mike Waltz, the UN ambassador that the US has, says that it is not a worry and that the US has enough to go through these war objectives that it has. But of course, remember that the US has been giving a lot of things like Patriot missile, interceptor missiles to the Ukrainians, for example, and also to the Israelis, who've bought significant amounts because of the Iranian threat that they were facing as well. And Mike Waltz blames the Biden administration for giving those weapons to Ukraine for the shortcomings in the stockpile that they had. But they're also a significant amount of weaponry. In terms of monetary value, they're worth about $4 million per missile, and each one obviously can only take down one or so cruise missiles. So that's a significant amount of money that these cost, which is why the toll for the Americans is now in the billions of dollars for this war in Iran. And it also is a very slow process to replace these missiles as well. There are only around 200 or so produced every year. So it's even if a ramp up in production is obviously pushed to the forefront, that will take a while to get back on board. And also it takes a while to get these stockpiles replenished.